Welcome, it's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey, good to be with you. We have a lot of show today. Breaking down news of the day, we got none other than Rayyvana, host of Reactions on Twitch. You can find that twitch.tv/TYT. Also in the bullpen, my debate segment, Mr. John Hawkins, owner of culturalsidle.com and also author of a book, 101 Things All Adults, Young Adults Should Know. He wants to debate me about Joe Rogan. This is going to be interesting. Top news story of the day. There's a sheriff deputy, that's him. He has been arrested because of extreme, heinous crimes against children. This is in DeKalb County, Georgia. Now, this story is going to highlight the insanity and evil that can be associated with the profession of policing, but it also highlights leadership at the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office. Let me bring your attention to the deputy who was behind bars. Let's put up his picture. His name is Derek Gardner. Derek Gardner is a deputy sheriff for the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office who has now been recently fired. He has been charged with rape, child molestation, and more. Officials say that this 34-year-old Derek Gardner of Stone Mountain, Georgia, was arrested by DeKalb County Police on Sunday. At that time, Gardner was employed with the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office. So let me make a distinction here. He works for the Sheriff's Office, but the county also has a police department. They have two different departments. Constitutionally, the Sheriff's Office outranks the police department. They are not the same agency. They do not have what's called a consolidated government or police protocol. So these are two different agencies that operate in the same jurisdiction. Still, he's a cop. This cop was arrested by cops that know him. Officers charged Gardner with trafficking of persons for sexual servitude, rape, child molestation, first-degree cruelty to children, enticing a child for indecent purposes, and aggravated sexual battery. At his arrest, after his arrest, the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office immediately terminated his employment. Now let me put up a picture of the sheriff. Her name is Melody Maddox. Sheriff Maddox is the first woman to ever be elected sheriff in that county, and she is one of the very few sheriffs to be elected as a woman in the state of Georgia, period. She happens to be African American, and she wasted no time. Now, come back to me for a minute, because I need you to understand this. She could have waited for the results of the investigation. She could have did the innocent until proven guilty. She could have did the he's on administrative leave. She did none of that. This sheriff utilized her executive authority against any pro-police advocacy and fired him immediately and has him booked inside of her jail, even though she had the option to ship him to another jail because he, in fact, is a sheriff or was a sheriff's deputy under her jurisdiction. She said, not only are we going to terminate him, we are going to house him right here. And then what did this sheriff do? Immediately released all of the information on her social media pages to the media. She wasted no time. Let me read to you some of it in just a moment. The press release that came from this sheriff came out literally minutes after the arrest. Talk about transparency. Firing immediate. Press release immediate. It says a 34-year-old deputy employed with the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office was arrested in DeKalb County by the DeKalb County Police Department. Stone Mountain resident Derek Gardner, this is the press release. Derek Gardner was charged with trafficking of persons for sexual servitude, rape, child molestation, cruelty to children in the first degree, enticing a child for indecent purposes, and aggravated sexual battery. Gardner's employment has been terminated. Gardner was taken into custody on the 6th and booked into the DeKalb County Jail, where he is being held without bond. Now, obviously, this individual, these accusations, if true, he's a monster. He's a monster who never deserved a badge in the first place. For him, that police uniform is a costume because he makes a joke out of it, okay? Now, the sheriff responded the right way. This is a woman in a male-dominated industry doing what other sheriffs and chiefs tell us, oh, we just can't do that. We have to wait till the outcome of the investigation. We're going to suspend until this is resolved. She did none of that. She said, oh, he's fired today. I hope that some of the other executives in law enforcement are taking notes, because this is how you handle it. Because this cop has eroded the public trust under her leadership. She ran as a reformist. She said she would have the most transparent sheriff's office in the history of that county. And this is a campaign promise kept. My dear sister, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's wonderful to see such decisive and swift action coming out of the sheriff's department in this case, because so often we don't see it. And stories like this make you wonder how many times are things like this swept under the rug? How many cops are doing the exact same heinous crimes as this deputy sheriff was, but their department protects them? They don't fire them, they don't disavow them. They aren't transparent. They sweep it under the rug. They protect them, and the people who are being victimized find no justice, because there's this culture, this white supremacist culture within police departments where they protect one another. But it is good to see that break in this instance, and I hope that the victims of his horrific, disgusting crimes do find justice, and that if that a jury does find him guilty of these just atrocious things.
Yeah, we're gonna follow this story from top to bottom, but I'm glad to see leadership stepping up. My thoughts and prayers are with the victims of this particular monster. But we are going to follow this all the way through. Also, looks like an attempted copycat killing. The way Ahmaud Arbery was killed, that father-son duo, well, it looks like another father-son duo tried to do the exact same thing to another young black male who was delivering for a national company. Let me bring your attention to Mr. Gibson. Let's put up his picture, okay? That's Mr. D. Monterio Gibson. He's a Black Fedex driver. He was making deliveries in Brookhaven, Mississippi. Two white men chased him, tried to trap him, and they shot at him, and they shot up his truck. And all he was trying to do was deliver packages per his orders. Put up the mugshot of the two men who are accused of this heinous crime. Now, keep their mugshots up, because I want to show you a cause and effect here, all right? Everyone knows Mr. Gibson was a victim of a crime. Everybody knows it. What is Mr. Gibson doing now? He's currently on unpaid time off from FedEx. They're not even paying the brother after he was shot at and had to flee those two individuals that, if things went the other way, would right now be arrested for murder. So he's on unpaid time off. After FedEx tried to put him back on the same route, he resisted for obvious reasons. So he goes back to FedEx. They say, well, we're gonna give you the same route tomorrow. Mr. Gibson said, hell to the no. Now, I'm sure he didn't say it that way, but basically, why would you put me on the same route? They just tried to kill me. Why would you do that? Why would you traumatize this young man like this again? Why would you do this, right? So FedEx said they were going to do what they can do to change his route. But in the meantime, you're on unpaid time off, all right? So Brandon Case and Gregory Case, put their pictures up again. Those are the individuals, father-son duo, Brandon and Gregory. Isn't that interesting? They turned themselves in to the Brookhaven police. That's in Mississippi. They were bailed out on $150,000 and a $75,000 bond respectively. Those are your criminals, all right? Those are the people who chased this young man down. Let me give you some background as to what happened on that day. This is according to the Mississippi Free Press. The driver, 24-year-old DeMontario Gibson of Utica, Mississippi, had just delivered a package around 7 p.m. on January 24th when he saw a white pickup driving toward him from a nearby residence located on a connected plot of land. He's lawfully there, he's doing his job, he clearly has on a FedEx uniform, he's delivering a package. What happens? Gibson told the Free Press, and I quote, "In my mind, I'm thinking the driver is leaving to go to the store or something like that. But then they get extremely close to me and start blowing their horn. I proceed to leave the driveway. As I'm leaving the driveway, he starts driving in the grass, trying to cut me off. Sounds familiar? My instincts kick in. I swerve around him and I start hitting the gas, trying to get out of the neighborhood because I don't know what his intentions are." Sounds familiar? He's trying to leave the community now, just like the young brother Ahmaud Arbery, okay? He's trying to avoid them, just like Ahmaud Arbery did. I drive down about 2 or 3 houses. There's another guy, here's the trap. There's another guy standing in the middle of the street, pointing a gun at my windows and signaling to me to stop with his hands, as well as mouthing the word stop. I shake my head no, I hide behind the steering wheel and I swerve around him as well. As I swerve around him, he starts firing shots into my vehicle, okay? That's a hell of a situation for a young worker to be in, okay? Now remember, he's on unpaid leave from FedEx because he refused to go on that same route again. According to the police, Brandon was the one armed with the gun, while his father was the one driving the pickup truck. Once again, sounds familiar? As Gibson drove toward the end of the street, Gibson said one of his managers at FedEx called him and he told her what was happening. "They're shooting at you? ? Yes. Okay, head back to the station as soon as you can." What? The FedEx manager says, "Hey, Mr. Gibson, are they shooting at you?" He says, "Yes." "Well, just as soon as you can get to FedEx processing, just come to the station. We'll solve this later." They didn't even want him to file a police report immediately. It gets deeper, okay? As Gibson made his way out of Brookhaven, he noticed the pickup truck was still following him. Still following him. He's out of the community. Gibson says he went as fast as he could and was chased all the way to the interstate. Once he was about 10 or 15 minutes down the interstate. Think about how long this is. 1 minute running away from someone with a gun feels like an eternity. This man has been doing it for about 20 minutes now total, all right? Okay? Once he was about 10 or 15 minutes down the interstate and the white pickup truck was no longer following him, Gibson said he called another manager and told him what had happened. The manager told him they could file a police report the next morning. Once again, no urgency. They're not treating him like a victim. But Mr. Gibson decided to call dispatch himself and reported the incident. Good for him. Gibson recounted the call saying, and I quote, "I reached dispatch and let them know what was going on. And I only had a chance to get a little of the story out when he cut me off and he was like, 'Were you at this address?' I said, 'Yes.' He was like, 'Well, I just got a call of a suspicious person at this address.' I was like, 'Sir, I'm not a suspicious person. I work for FedEx. I was just doing my job.'" Let's put a picture of this young man up again. Yeah, you know what's suspicious about him, right? Okay. "I also let him know that they shot at me." So he's telling the dispatch, "Listen, these people shot at me." And he was like, "Well, they didn't tell me that." Of course they wouldn't. He told me to save the rest of my story, that he'd take my name down and give it to my supervisor. Once he made it back to the FedEx station, the first manager this young brother spoke with examined the back of the vehicle. What did they find? They found bullet holes inside of the vehicle, okay? Bullet holes. The truck was a Hertz rental with Hertz marking, but it was rented by FedEx, and the young man clearly had a full FedEx uniform on. The next day, Gibson and one of his managers went to the Brookhaven police, filed an official report, and according to the report, let's put this up, Miss Candace Welch said that she was Mr. Gibson's boss. The van had at least 2 bullet holes, one in the back door, one in the bumper, and 3 packages inside had bullet holes in them. She also had a picture of a bullet that was still laying on the van. Gibson also told Free Press that one white officer, whose name he did not know, asked him if he had been doing anything to make them think he looked suspicious. I mean, you were shot at. Obviously, you did something here. Why would 2 white men just try to trap you and kill you? What did you do to them? That's basically what the cop is saying. Oh, there's more, okay? Brookhaven police did not respond to the Free Press request for a comment at the time of their reporting. Gibson said the police chief tried to emphasize how non-racist the community is. That the town of Brookhaven, we don't have racist here. Well, that seemed odd to me, according to Mr. Gibson. The Brookhaven chief of police, Kenny Collins, is black. Brookhaven has a history of lynching. In 1955, civil rights activist Lamar Smith died after someone shot him on the lawn of the Lincoln County Courthouse in Brookhaven. Local police never charged any suspects with the crime. The attorney for Mr. Gibson told the Mississippi Free Press that he plans to ask the FBI and the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations, MBI, to open an official investigation. He also plans to ask the US State Department of Justice to prosecute this as a hate crime. The attorney, Mr. Moore, compared this to the Ahmaud Arbery murder, saying, and I quote, "It's just sad that it happens. It seems to be a copycat duo copying off the Ahmaud Arbery case. They saw this man was a black man, and they just hauled off and shot him at multiple times, At least the younger son did. The older guy tried to entrap him. They were working concertedly to try to entrap and kill this man. I mean, they shot at him several times. It's amazing that he survived." I know that was lengthy, but it's necessary to tell the full story here. This is, without question, in my mind, an attempted copycat murder. Rayyvana, what are your thoughts on this case?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The facts of this, the setup of these 2, attempted murderers is so similar to Ahmaud Arbery. It's almost striking, really. And the fact that they were only charged with aggravated assault and conspiracy is such an undermining of justice. Not even attempted murder, aggravated assault. They shot at him multiple times. It was clearly planned. He was positioned in the middle of the road, and the driver was steering him towards the man with the gun. It's clear cut. It should not be, could be aggravated assault. We don't know if we could prove murder. It's clearly attempted murder in my mind. From what I've learned in law school, and on top of that, it's clearly a hate crime. I mean, at the very worst, I don't believe they actually thought he was doing anything illegal. But even if they did, at the very worst, he trespassed. In no universe does a trespass allow you to shoot someone.
Right.
It was just an attempt to lynch a man in broad daylight, and thank God they missed. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that there still shouldn't be justice served. And we need to make an example out of the people who don't end up killing their victims. Because if we don't, then there will be more copycats. Right. The Justice Department can't just wait until there's a dead body. They have to take proactive action in prosecuting the people who are trying to make more and more dead Black bodies.
I echo everything you said, 100% correct. Let me highlight how all of these systems failed this young man. You had a corporate system that failed him. FedEx failed him top to bottom. You had a judicial system that has failed him. The charges do not equate to the severity of the crime against him. And even the dispatch, as well as the police officers involved, tried to make light of it. You had multiple failures, including the social failure, which created the atmosphere for the incident itself, the racism. So all of these systemic failures surround this young man within one point of his life. His corporate failure or the corporate failure around him, the systemic political failures, the systemic judicial failure, and now you have this, all right? We're gonna follow this story and the charges need to be appropriately applied. Let me take you to the South again. That's Commissioner Marvin Arrington Jr. He's a Fulton County Commissioner in Atlanta. His office was firebombed. Not too long after he got into a debate about the big lie with Trump supporters. Let's put up his picture. Let's put up his full picture. Commissioner Arrington is a good guy, okay? After fire investigators are trying to find, Atlanta fire investigators are trying to find out who threw a firebomb in the Fulton County Commissioner's office. It was in his law office, which is in the county. He's an attorney, okay? This story has a lot of twists and turns. Now, let me remind you, firebombs are specific to racism in the South, okay? Let's not forget that. The commissioner said the attack seems more like something out of the 1960s that he has read about in history books. He said, and I quote, "In my commissioner role, I've been fighting against the big lie and overturning the election, and people are upset about that," Arrington commented. You know who else used firebombs? These guys, okay? You see those clowns? I got that picture from FBI.gov. They used firebombs because they wanted people to know who did it without specifically being held accountable for it. Commissioner Arrington said a contractor was actually in the building. He had somebody working in the building at the time of the firebombing. He said his quick response made a huge difference. Number one, the contractor startled the perpetrator. Number two, he lessened the amount of damage because he immediately called 911. The commissioner said he is now looking into cameras for the property and now has a firearm on his hip. He is now strapped, carries a gun with him, had his gun today, okay? They're unable to go to the office because it's severely burned. I just got my weapons carry license. I think you take precautions in the boxing ring. They call that protecting yourself at all times. Commissioner Arrington said with a smile, firebombing, what is it? Is a bombing technique designed to damage a target, generally an urban area, through the use of fire. Okay, you see where we are now, right? He's a whole damn county commissioner. Somebody drove up to his office, used specifically a firebomb, threw it in. They probably wanted to do more damage. But the reality is that commissioner, his contractor, his law partner, they could all be dead. They could all be dead right now. Rayyvana?
I mean, it's just horrifying and so sad to see and to hear, it being described as like out of a history book, like old school textbook KKK racism happening in 2022 because it never went away, right? And they're trying to intimidate him, they're trying to scare him, and it's good that he's not intimidated. Now he's strapped and he's not backing down. But he shouldn't have to feel that way. He shouldn't have to carry a firearm to protect himself. And I wonder about the makeup of the police department and whether or not, the people in that police department have sympathies for the people who are doing the fire bombings, and whether or not it will act swiftly and, carry out justice and find who did it, or if it'll just be another failure by a police department in this country. But it's just such a sad story, and I'm glad that he's okay and that the contractor is okay and everyone made it out all right.
Yeah, and I had a brief conversation with Commissioner Arrington earlier this morning, and the mayor, he said the mayor of Atlanta, Andre Dickens, who just got elected, reached out to him personally and said, and he's a black male, and said, we are going to solve this crime in this city. So we'll give you an update as soon as it comes. All right, we got more. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
While the Young Turks, the Friday show is gonna be awesome. We're gonna help us over here. Drop it. We became the first ever daily online web television show.
No, the Constitution is the very core of America. The fact that we don't spy on American citizens, that we get a warrant, that we go to a judge, that we have a procedure, that we have due process, that is America.
On top of that, they go, why don't they just stay at their own schools? You gotta realize something. These schools suck. They want people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You ain't got no straps, you ain't got no boots.
He lit these fires in trash bins all around town out of frustration.
99th most viewed channel today on YouTube.
The Shorties Award.
Best web host.
We passed 1 billion views. Voice Award winner, News and Information Channel, The Young Turks. Oh, another Webby.
The Young Turks.
Can I curse? Yeah! For those of you watching on live stream, yes, we have adopted a pet iguana that showed up at our door.
Haunted version in the dark with our silhouettes.
Now let's get to the best line of the debate. And it was definitely the one against police. I told you we were coming.
You talk about it when it becomes a problem. Our lack of gun control is a problem.
Nonsense BS story is hurting that cause, and they need to wake up and recognize that they are being had by these people.
Biggest gang in America. Question is, how do we make sure that we blame the person who is dead? What kind of democracy is that?
We should never forget that the most powerful people in the world exploited the greatest tragedy in American history to go to war in a country that had a lot of oil.
Rolling thunder. That's what this show is.
Never in my life did I think I would like to see a dictator. But if there's going to be one, I want it to be Trump.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Where's the line? We've crossed every line you can imagine.
We are a socialist country. It's socialism for the rich.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
You don't have to know the truth, just believe what they tell you.
There is no bounds to their monstrous hypocrisy. Tick-tock. I think we're gonna win the Senate in 2020. And I think we're gonna have the House, and I think we're gonna have the presidency. Tick-tock. And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock, and we're gonna run you out of town, and we're gonna have an actual democracy in this country. November of 2020 could also be potentially the greatest day of our lives. Let us whisper of a dream.
face.
All right, welcome back. We still got a lot of show left. Always good to be with you. Thank you for making it happen. All right, before I go to the comments, let me remind everyone, watch list, the big homie J.R. Jackson live weekdays. It's a remarkable show. 12 p.m. Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Find out what stories you should be paying attention to. He covers a lot of ground. News, politics, culture, current events, sports, and more. This is a 10-week test series. All right, here's how you can support. One, I need you to watch live every day. And don't forget to subscribe and follow at youtube.com/watchlistTYT and facebook.com/watchlistTYT. Also, very excited about this, all right? And I've seen the trailer too. I mean, I'm even more excited about it. Oxy Kingpins. They're real. Check out the special online screening of the Oxy Kingpins on Kinema Thursday. That's on the 10th, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. It will be followed by a robust Q&A with Jank. The cost for a ticket is $15. And part of the proceeds will be donated to charity to help educate and empower communities most devastated by the opioid crisis. You can purchase a ticket to watch the online screening at tyt.com/screening. The Oxy Kingpins covers the untold story of how a network of pharmaceutical manufacturers, distributors, and retailers work together. They orchestrated a criminal act on the American people, all right? It's the opioid crisis killed over 500,000 people. Get your ticket, tyt.com/screening, tyt.com/screening. All right, let's get it. Democracy for Sale says, this just goes to show what we have known for decades. PDs make concerted efforts in order to conceal, obfuscate, and distract from their misdeeds. Yep. Mickey C, the Silver-Haired Dragon says, the sheriff is a very strong, very determined woman, especially in a male-dominated job. I wonder what the men under her would do in retaliation for her daring to speak the truth. It's unfortunate we always have to include that in the conversation, but it is a real cause and effect relationship when you do the right thing in policing, isn't it? Okay. Lynn, I guess FedEx delivers packages but not compassion. Yeah. Next TYT reporter says, of course the police won't admit they are racist. They are the racist. E. Smith says, she did not play around at all. DeKalb needed her actions in this case. And it was so interesting because she literally put it everywhere. I mean, it was like, she wanted to be very transparent about it and she put it everywhere. Lenora Smith, damn, they look like the McMichaels. Crazy, and you going to send him out to be possibly murdered? What the hell, FedEx? Yep. All right, Dr. Rashad, can you research and maybe bring further light to the Mark Wilson case? The brother needs help, and I think your platform can help the young man. Thank you for what you do. I will be researching that this evening. Thank you for that. Good for you, man. Races are firebombing again. Wow, just wow. Yeah. Yep, all started with tiki torches, remember? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
You're still free. Back off. I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Bitch. Yeah. Put it on your face. Put it on his face.
All right, let's see. What's up, guys? So we're over here filming over here, exercising. Look what this lady wants to tell us. Go ahead. Let us know. Go ahead.
I said you're scumbags. You're child pedophilers. Bitches that turn into terrorists.
Okay.
You each other's asses, suck each other's and rape children and you're terrorists now because you hate yourself so much. Now you're taking pictures in front of a plane to remind you of 9/11. I'm gonna
get her license plate. Hey, you can't make this up. You can't make this up.
Matter of fact, let me get your license plate.
Look at this girl.
Put your license plate down.
You gonna run me over too?
Oh, you so American that you look like you're not terrorists?
You gonna run us over?
I would never do that.
Oh.
I'm putting y'all on Facebook.
Go ahead.
Well, Karen, I'm putting you everywhere. There's more. Here it is.
Really feel stupid.
No, I'm really not gonna feel stupid because you're not American top team, you're American terrorists.
Yeah.
And God told me so. God is in your brain and your brain.
Hey, look, hold on.
Show everybody whose you suck.
How stupid
Show everybody whose you suck.
Talking about God.
Show everybody whose you suck.
Like a dumbass.
Show everybody whose his.
He's a hoarder too. Oh, you're a hoarder. Come on, look at this.
I know they're a little American. You're a hoarder. I'm a Middle Eastern. You're a hoarder watching American television.
What does that say?
Watch American television about hoarders. That's American television. That's American television. God told me to come here with you two in front of the airplane, trying to act like you're so cool with 9/11. You suck his right? You're child pedophiles, right? Well, look at him. Look at him. Look at him. The guy you suck. You, the guy taping it, you suck his. He sucks your.
Hey,
you both bend over.
What kind of shirt is that? That's Africa's shirt. That's Africa.
That's right. That's not you. Africa loves God. You don't love God. You don't love God. You don't love Jesus.
I don't think
you don't love Jesus. You don't love Middle Easterns. 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 You don't love. You do not love Middle Easterns in America. You do not love Middle Easterns in America. You do not love Middle Easterns in Middle Eastern. You do not love these Middle Easterns in America. Hate Middle Easterns. They hate Middle Easterns in America.
I'm not
they hate
even
Middle Easterns in the Middle East. They hate Middle Easterns. Please take me. It is American, Japanese, Asian. That's on fire.
She's homophobic. She's racist. She's bigoted. She's ridiculous. Now, strap in because there's more.
Like he's gonna set on fire in hell. He hates Middle Easterns. He hates Middle Easterns. He hates Middle Easterns in America.
Goodbye.
You know you suck.
Hey,
Are you high? Why are you taping video of an airplane? Exactly. Get that. Get that. You two child molesters that hate Middle Easterns in America and in the Middle East. You think you're so cool. You think you're so cool taping an American from a Middle Eastern that hates Middle Easterns and hates Middle Easterns in America. You know. I need to go to church. You're going to hell. You think that's an American way to laugh at Americans?
You're going to heaven. You're going to heaven. God, save her. Save her, God.
He needs attention.
Save her.
He needs attention. Give him attention.
Then what?
You know what I'm saying is real in Middle East and in America. You all hate Middle Easterns. You Middle Eastern American.
Have a great
American.
day. Have a great
that
day.
hate Middle Easterns that go with the Middle Eastern way that make the Middle Easterns look bad. They're both Middle Eastern.
You're not even Middle Eastern.
You are Middle Eastern. You are Middle Eastern.
Brazilian.
They're actually Brazilian. Now, I know this is difficult to watch, but there's more.
Hey, hold on, wait.
Give me the license plate number. Why are you taking pictures of airplanes, first of all?
Jesus loves you.
Why do you take, I know he does, Jesus is right here.
Jesus loves you.
Why are you taking video?
Why are you
You're
talking
a
to
Middle
us?
Eastern that hates Middle Easterns. You want Middle Eastern little boys like you to get raped and go to hell.
Yeah?
And you want them to turn into terrorists.
Real quick.
Like there's Brazilian, Peruvian that hates God, that hates Middle Eastern.
Now, some of you may be confused as to what was happening in the end. This is what happens when you engage Karenicity for 5 minutes or more. Karenicity is actually infectious. So what you see right there is that individual who has now encountered a Karen and engaged the Karen for too long, he is now transforming into another creature. To everyone watching, here's a new rule that we know to put in our Karenicity handbook. You cannot engage Karenicity for more than 5 minutes at a time, or you will turn into this guy. Not me. Woo! All right, so I debated. I said, I don't know if I want to play the whole video. I don't know if so anyway, I decided to play the whole video, Rayyvana, and here's why. Because even when I debated, I said, well, damn, that's a lot of Karenicity, right? I said, but these guys had to go through it. So I'm going to stand in solidarity with them and at least let people know the full throttle reality of what they had to experience with this one person. What were your thoughts watching that?
Well, first I want to say congratulations because you've done it, Doc. You found the final boss of Karenicity.
It really is.
The epitome of Karens. I mean, she rolls up in her kind of beat down Chevy Tahoe, screaming homophobic slurs, being Islamophobic to people who are not Muslim.
Right, she's hitting all the check marks here.
Shirt that says respect the earth or something, telling them how much God loves them. Car full of garbage, screeching nonsense. Like she is the top of the Karen hierarchy. But I think that her actions are also sort of, emblematic of what a lot of Islamophobia in America is, and racism more broadly is deeply ignorant. Right. So I mean, aside from the fact that she's being Islamophobic to people who aren't Muslim and are actually Brazilian, or they're not Middle Eastern, they're Brazilian. She's screaming about how they don't love Jesus. And I'm assuming that's because she thinks they're Muslim, which she clearly doesn't know anything about Islam if she thinks that Muslim people don't love Jesus. I mean, she's just calling them terrorists and saying all these sorts of ignorant things. I mean, she doesn't even know what it is. It's just an innate, or not innate, but like a learned, angry, visceral hatred towards something that she genuinely doesn't know anything about. But and I feel bad for those guys who had to endure it, and I hope that they got some internet clicks and a little bit of clout for themselves off of her insane rant.
Somebody needs to check on that young man at the end. I don't know if, it's like turning into a vampire. If he's able to be snapped out of it before midnight, all right, we have a chance to save him where he doesn't turn. Okay, all right. Black medical doctor, she goes to cash her check, to deposit it actually. Open up a bank account. Well, it didn't happen the way she wanted it to happen. Let's put up her picture. Okay, that is Dr. Malika Mitchell Stewart. Dr. Stewart says she just finished her residency on December 18th, 2021. She went to Chase's First Colony Bank to open an account and deposit $16,000. It was a check from her new job at Valley Oaks Medical Group. All right, $16,000. She's a doctor, she's working hard. She has a special moment, she wants to open up the account. According to the lawsuit, staff members at the bank asked peculiar questions about the validity of her check and her employment as a doctor. They did not believe she was a medical doctor. As soon as Dr. Mitchell Stewart showed employees at First Colony Branch her check, they immediately treated her like a criminal, the suit states. Mitchell Stewart said bank employees denied her services and said the check was fraudulent, but it was not. She told ABC 13, and I quote, it was an unfortunate situation. They took my special moment away. I felt like a criminal. I've never done anything wrong. In order to get a Texas medical license or a medical license at all, you have to have a clean record. You have to go to school for so many years. And they just didn't care. They didn't respect that. They didn't respect my credentials. Now I'm gonna split hairs here, okay? Because the young lady is learning a very important lesson about racism in America. They don't give a damn what degree you have. They actually do respect the credentials. If you were a white woman with those credentials, hell, they may have given you an extra $16,000 when you opened up that bank account. But you didn't fit the narrative. You didn't fit the stereotype. You were outside of their normative understanding of academia and race, the brilliance of black excellence. You don't fit the mold here. Obviously, your check is fraudulent and you're a criminal. Now, I hope, Dr. Mitchell Stewart, that you have come to the realization that your credentials will not save you from racism. When it comes down to it, status, how much money you make, what kind of degree you have, for many in America, they try to obtain these things because they think they will gain acceptance into a white male dominated power structure. My job is to uproot it, to destroy it, to call it out every time I see it. Her attorney, Justin Moore, added a quote and said, Dr. Mitchell Stewart showed proof of identification. She showed proof that she was a doctor by presenting a business card. She even called employees from her medical group to confirm who she was. Was that the equivalent to? She showed them her freedom papers. She had to show them her freedom papers. Now, let me show you how insane this is. That $16,000 check she worked for. They're so racist that they won't even let her give them money. You gotta understand the irony here. She's not there to get money from them. She's there depositing the $16,000 check. She's there putting money into their bank. And they are so extreme in their bias against her, they have now treated her as a criminal. It gets deeper. ABC 13 reached out to Chase Bank officials, sent back the following statement and said, we take this matter very seriously. I mean, damn, Chase. Very? Well, we're working with something here then, and are investigating the situation. We have reached out to Dr. Mitchell Stewart to better understand what happened and apologize for her experience. We've seen it before. It's called banking while black. This woman had proper ID, a proper check. She showed her business card, showed her medical license. She showed all of this, right? It wasn't enough. Racism is real. Rayyvana?
Yeah, I mean, this story just immediately made me think of a couple years back, I got a check from one of my scholarships for school and I had to deposit it. And at the time I was working in a summer camp with kids. It was like 90 kids, it was chaotic. I'm leaving work, going to the bank, sweatpants on, paint all over my shirt. I had Cheetos in my hair. And I go to deposit this check, they ask for my ID, they take the money, that's it. That's all they asked for was my ID, nothing. And I mean, I was out of breath. I looked gross, and I'm walking in with a relatively big check. They didn't second guess it.
No question.
No questions asked. Just, can I see your ID, which is standard, and they deposit it, no problem. I mean, this is just blatant racism, and the fact that she never should have had to show her business card. She never should have had to have called the employees in her medical group, but she did, and they still looked her in her face and said, this isn't you. We won't take this check. But what they were really saying was, you are black. We can't believe that you would have this type of money. We don't want it. And it's just heinous and so dehumanizing. And I, all solidarity with her. I feel very unfortunate that she had to go through this heinous racist situation, and I hope that she gets everything she deserves from this lawsuit.
Well, we're gonna do what we can to make sure we expose it and that the bank does the right thing by her in the future if she chooses to continue to bank with them. My recommendation to the good doctor, find you a black bank that gives a damn about your black dollars, all right? Okay, we got more. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
I'm wearing one of our pieces of merchandise. So the funny thing about the Dragon Squad, and that's what our viewers call themselves. That's the name of the group, but every individual chooses their own name. You might have Cincinnati Dragon. You might have Harry Potter Dragon. We have a Grandma Sunshine Dragon is one of those that I remember. These are people that like to have an element of themselves, their lives, what's significant to them reflected as a part of the community. But the concept of the Dragon Squad is just something I threw away as a joke. I was mocking the Proud Boys, these like right-wing groups that come up with a name for themselves that they think is cool, but it's actually really lame. And I thought, off the top of my head, I can come up with something that's still kind of lame, but much cooler. And so I threw out Dragon Squad and I just moved on with my life. But everybody liked it, and so they kept it going, and so we've embraced it. And I think again, this was during the period of the pandemic. I think it was sort of nice to have a renewed sense of community, a feeling that you're a part of something when everything seems so chaotic. And as a result of that, we've got independent artists online streaming, making beautiful digital art of dragons. We've got, we've released a number of pieces of merchandise that people love sending us photos of them. And then, by the way, for me personally, people send me, like you can probably see in the background, like a knitted dragon someone sent me. There's a dragon book they sent me, dragon board games they send me. People have done like custom ironworks, making dragon bottle openers. Like the fans are super invested in diamond art and things like that. And so it's great that they send this stuff. Sometime we're gonna have to set up a wall of all of it. But yeah, it's definitely brought the community a lot closer together. The fact that we were no longer in this big studio, I felt a lot more personally attached to people. It felt very immediate. And I know that I personally needed the connection.
Did you know that more than 20% of the world's oxygen comes from the Amazon? Why? Because of trees. I know what you're thinking. Of course! So what do we want to do? We want to plant more trees so we can save the climate. It's quite literal. So that's what leads to our new partner, Plant Your Change. Love it. It's so easy. What they do is you take the credit or debit cards you already have and you plug it into the system. And if you so choose, you get to round up every purchase to the nearest dollar and they plant a tree for you, okay? Now you could also choose if you wanna do it on only certain kinds of purchases or only so often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But literally every cent makes a difference here. It's Plant Your Change. And if you wanna know more information, just go to tyt.com/trees. Let's go save the planet together.
Now, top. No. No. No.
Today, a terrible day for the internet, a terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
All right, welcome back. Let me read a couple of comments. I will read as many as I can. We are running short on time. Mickey C, the Silverhead Dragon says, pedophilia seems to be on her mind an awful lot. Projection? Lynn says, wow, how many conspiracies can Messy Truck Karen roll into one rant? Craig Souffle says, Jesus wept after he laughed at this dumbbell Karen. Shakita Ganai Beer Dragon says, doctoring while black. Yep. All right, let me bring your attention to a very horrific story. And when it comes to the kids, I don't play around at all. Let's put up a picture of one individual who has already been charged. This is a teacher arrested for pulling the hair of a student, okay? 49-year-old Connecticut school teacher has been arrested after she was caught on video pulling the hair of a 12-year-old student during an altercation. Jennifer Wells Jackson, that's her name, keep her face up there, was charged with risk of injury to a minor and second-degree breach of peace. Wells Jackson was released on a $20,000 bond and is expected to go to court next week. Let me show you the screenshot of when she pulled the hair of this child. The video shows her clasping on the student's hair as other students tell her to let go. When she eventually does let go, she then pushes the student's head in the process. Now, we did some research here at Indisputable. Now, you may say, well, that's a bad situation. That is a bad teacher. That teacher should never do that. Now, let me tell you why I take this so personally. I'm a former high school teacher myself. I was adopted by a high school teacher. Teachers are remarkable. And in order to keep the profession of teaching remarkable, I have to call out bad ones, okay? In that same New Haven school district, put up his picture. Same New Haven school district, back in November, teacher Darren Beasley, 42, was arrested for assaulting a student as well. Those are the stills that you see of him assaulting a student, okay? There's more. Put up the next picture. Same school district. Same school district. In January, a teacher assistant, her name is Sonetta Powell, was arrested for bringing a gun to the classroom. The superintendent of this problematic New Haven district, her name is Dr. Eileen Tracy. Let's put up a picture of Dr. Tracy. Okay. Now here's what I'm going to say. Come back to me. Okay. You are failing those students. Multiple teachers physically assaulting children, bringing guns to school. These are the things we know about on record. You gotta understand this. If these incidents are making it to the public, there are other incidents that are not, okay? Now I know some people will push back and say, well, Doc, why are you going after a black school district? I don't give a damn what color they are. I don't give a damn what race they are. I could care less about their ethnicity. If they are failing children in particular, why would you? Now, if I start adopting that line of thinking, I know better than the other side. Rayyvana, what are your thoughts on this insane situation at the school system?
Yeah, I used to work in schools during undergrad. I was a teaching assistant, a paraprofessional in schools for kids who had behavioral disabilities. There was a lot of fights. And part of being a teacher in those schools is keeping your cool and intervening in a way that's not harmful to the kids. It isn't grabbing them by the hair and yeeting them onto the ground. It's these people aren't cut out to work in schools, and they shouldn't. And you're right to call them out. And it's good that these things are getting into the public. But you're exactly right. It makes me worry about all the things that are being slid under the rug, and all the children who are being harmed by these teachers' lack of not just professionalism but maturity. These children deserve better, and if people aren't calling them out, they won't get it. So Got to keep calling them out.
Yeah, we're going to continue to expose it. What I've learned is that light has a way of transforming bad policies into good ones. It has a way of holding people accountable that should be held accountable. And it lets the children know who are being assaulted by these educators, maybe even others, that there are individuals who give a damn about them, who care about them, all right? Okay, Black woman working at the Confederate Museum that's state funded has filed a discrimination suit. I kid you not. Let me take you to Alabama. A Black woman who worked for 12 years as a receptionist at an Alabama Museum of the Confederacy has filed a racial discrimination complaint over her treatment while working there. Her name is Evelyn England. Let's put up a picture of the outside of this museum, all right? Museum of the Confederacy. Evelyn England told the Associated Press that she was often treated like as much of a curiosity while working inside the first White House of the Confederacy, as were the various artifacts on display, such as the belongings of Jefferson Davis's family. Black people question why she worked there. I would too. While white visitors to the museum seemed to relish a safe space that did not challenge their comforting and inaccurate views of history. This is a fascinating background. Let me give it to you as best as I can. When one person maintained that secession was only about preserving states' rights, there's always a start somewhere, right? A view that had long been taught to Southerners as the root cause of civil war instead of slavery. So that's the mess they put out there. Oh, this was just about state rights, had nothing to do with slavery. All right, well, the one state right was they wanted to keep slavery legal, okay? So it's the same thing. She responded, but did everyone have the same rights? You love the Confederacy for what you think it stood for, your rights. She would think, what were they fighting about? Some would say states' rights. I have a problem with your solution of states' rights because all individuals in the state did not have the same rights. One day, an older white woman said, oh, the South will rise, to no one in particular as she browsed in the gift shop where the merchandise includes books, stickers of the first Confederate flag and children's toys, including teddy bears in Confederate and Union uniforms. When the woman turned around to put more items on the counter, Miss England asked her, what are you rising from? She said the woman did not reply. If looks could kill, I'd be a dead woman, Miss England said. England is 62 years of age. She retired this week from a job funded by the state that paid $34,700. And it wasn't the friendliest of departures. State records show she was suspended for 3 days last month for refusing to sign a performance review. And she said she filed a racial discrimination complaint with the US Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. A state spokeswoman said the Department of Finance declined to comment on this personnel matter. Now I know some of you are thinking just the same as I was thinking. This is one of the most expected things that has ever happened to a Black person. You are literally working at the White House for the Confederacy in Alabama, and people have been discriminatory, all right? But then I thought about it a little deeper. I said, it is a state job. It's a taxpayer funded job, which means it has to be free from discrimination. And she has a right to be there just like anyone else. And obviously she does a great job because she was there for 12 years. But she got paid $34,000 a year to go through that kind of racism every year. And I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg. Rayyvana, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I kept going back and forth about the, even just the headline of the story between this is the most believable thing I've ever heard, and this is an Onion article, right? This can't be real. And I hope that she's successful with her EEOC charge, and she's, gets compensated for the discrimination she faced. I can't get over the fact that there's state funding to a museum that is seemingly celebrating the Confederacy, to the point where they sell Confederate flag stickers and teddy bears and kids' toys. That's shocking to me. I guess I've not spent a lot of time in the South. I live in Chicago, but just the celebrating traders who wanted to protect slavery and the right to own Black people to the point where you're selling gift shop items.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's shocking.
Yeah, and I remind people all the time that when our tax dollars support these museums, they support the statues, street names, that means that you are forcing me to fund symbols of my own oppression. And you are forcing those who are not racist to do the same. For a minority group, a small demographic of racist people who are still claiming the South will rise again. All right, thank you for being on the program. Always a pleasure. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your great work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. Every Thursday, right after your show, you can see reactions here on twitch.tv/TYT. You can also see my videos for Rebel HQ on Facebook and on YouTube.
Your show is so engaging. You are so analytical and so just authentic with your approach. Great show. Love having you on the team. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We got more. The bullpen is next. Stick and stay. The concept of the Young Turks means the audience, they are the Young Turks. They are the go-getters. They are the ones making the emphatic change happen in their local community. The reality is that we've always, young and the not so young, we've always cared about news. But when you do not see the messengers of the news look like you, when they do not share your experiences, exposures, and environment, and there's a disconnect between you and the news. I lecture in mass communications. One thing I tell all of my students, there is no such thing as non-biased news. It never has been. Non-biased news has always been an illusion. Let's go back to the 60s and 70s, where people would say that was the purity of non-biased news. News has a segment. That segment has a time. That time, you must do your story and be finished. That means the producer, the writer, the orator has to take out what they don't think is important and only leave in what they believe is important. They have a limited time to tell the story. They do not have time to tell everybody's version or everybody's side. And they get to choose the facts that they bring to you, as well as the nuance, which really is a word for opinion, that they bring to you, the context they bring to you. So we've always had a level of bias in news. Here's the issue. The issue is to not deceive individuals as if you don't have some level of opinion with your news commentary. And that's what TYT has never done. They've always been authentic in their approach to progressive ideology and their news analysis and political breakdown. And I think that's how you actually win the heart and soul of individuals who are consuming information from you, because now they see themselves in you.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not gonna wanna lose, and he's gonna run for the hills.
You got that bet all day long. Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Jake has made some good predictions, and this is in good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's a little bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
No, but
I just got a Roku set. Did basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? They're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Idarola.
You don't see a lot of news coverage in the mainstream media of the peaceful Black Lives Matter protests that happened throughout the country.
Black Americans
are hurting. Minorities in this country are hurting.
We always talk about starting from the bottom up, but the problem is the bottom up is always the least amount of power. No one cares about them, and until someone actually cares about them, then we'll do something about it.
Please, for God's sake, America, understand, acknowledge, and work towards getting to a new reality where Black lives actually matter.
Welcome back. It's indisputable. Let me read some of these comments, okay? I will read a few. Got time for just a few. Cena Hogaboom says, who is hiring these people? Homie the Clown? That was a classic character, by the way. Really was. Homie don't play that. Homie would have never hired those folks. Lynn, when I taught 8th grade history in California, the state adopted textbook gave states' rights as the reason for the Civil War. Yeah, they do that. Needless to say, I presented the students with the other resources, AKA the truth. All right, the truth of what it was really about. Let's go YouTube super chat. Susie B says, can someone say background check? Yep. Spectrophonic, that's right, doctor. These are children, they learn from by imitation. What are we teaching them? That's right. Rosie. Well, what the hell are you doing working there? That was my question as well. But I had to think about it. I said, you know what? It's a government job. It has to follow certain rules, but you know. Bernie the Kiwi Dragon. Doc, that was a quadruple dose, talking about Karen. All in of herself, 4 for the price of 1. You really did get a lot today. You got a lot of Karenicity today. All right, it may be overload for some people. I apologize in advance, okay? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. In the bullpen today, we have Mr. John Hawkins, owner of culturalsidle.com. That's really unique. And author of 101 Things All Young Adults Should Know. All right, this is going to be interesting. We are going to chop it up about Joe Rogan. John, thank you for being on the show. Welcome. How are you?
I'm fantastic. When I heard we were going to do like a Joe Rogan favorite episode thing where we just talk about how much we love Joe Rogan, I thought it'd be great. I was looking forward to it a lot.
Yeah, Joe Rogan's racist. Yeah, I know you're kidding, brother.
I'm kind of kidding. You never know. He's a Bernie bro. You might love the guy.
Yeah, no,
not likely, but never.
I don't. Let me tell you something. I don't give a damn what bro he is. I don't like what he has said about black people, and I will give you obviously the premise of my argument.
Sure.
I don't want to presume what you know, believe about Joe Rogan or his latest saga. So I will give you an opportunity to say what you feel, and I will respond to it. Go ahead.
What do I think about his latest saga? I don't know what to tell you about that other than Joe Rogan's really popular. I don't think he's racist. I think he's a very entertaining guy. I think he's probably more mainstream than either one of us. I think the public loves the guy. I think Spotify's paid him an awful lot of money. And even if Spotify canceled him, he'd be just fine, because I don't think any of his audience is offended by anything that's really happened in the last few months. I think a lot of people who don't like him because he's saying things that they don't want said. He's not woke. He's giving platforms to people they don't like. So that's the general opinion I have of the whole Joe Rogan thing.
Okay. So do you think he has said things that are racist against black people?
I think he's definitely said things that were extremely offensive.
Okay,
I don't think
racist.
He meant them as racist. Now, nothing I've heard. I mean, maybe you've got some deep stuff I haven't heard in the news lately. Never know.
All right, so let me ask you this.
Sure.
Because I find it quite interesting when, number one, you're coming on the show to talk about the saga that's happening with Joe Rogan.
Yes.
And when I posed the question to you, what are your thoughts about the latest saga? Your response was you don't know. But
well, it's a lot more than you don't know, though.
He's mainstream. I mean, it's a bunch of jargon. So let's get to the nitty gritty of why you're here on the show. Joe Rogan has a pattern of racist and racially insensitive commentary. And me as a black man, I can speak to it quite adequately, and I would do so for the sake of this conversation. When Joe Rogan said, we got out talking about into a black neighborhood, and it was like we were in Africa, like we were in Planet of the Apes, not a white person in sight. Is that racist?
I think it was insensitive. Did you watch the whole clip? Because there was a lot more than just that little clip to it.
Yeah, I watched it.
And I think right shortly after, he said, you know what, that sounded kind of racist. He
admitted it was racist.
He admitted it sounded racist.
So it is racist, correct?
No, I don't think he's racist.
He said it was racist.
He said he thought it sounded racist. There's a
right,
difference.
His words were racist.
Definitely insensitive sounding.
But his words were racist, sir. He even said his words were racist.
I think he thought it sounded racist. There's a difference between sounded racist and being racist. And I think if you listen to that clip, he even went on to say, man, I realized doing this whole thing that, Black Americans have a big point when they talk about how, hey, it's all white people on TV. Because I'm sitting here watching all these in an all black movie theater. I'm watching all these previews and they're all white people. And I could sit there and see, this is what he said in the same clip. I could sit there and see how people, I'd never realized that until I'm sitting in a black movie theater watching all these clips and there's not any black people on the screen. So, I think Joe Rogan's more complicated and you're trying to portray him.
No, I think he is a complicated guy. I've actually agreed with Joe Rogan on some things before, but I'm very clear about implicit bias. Are you familiar with implicit bias?
Well, tell me, educate me.
Implicit bias is an innate, it's connected to your core, and it's so indoctrinated to your lifestyle and your pattern of understanding the broader world around you that you are unable to detect it. So it comes out when you make a statement like, yeah, I was around a bunch of black people, no white people were in sight, so I felt like I was in Planet of the Apes. Well, that's what we call an implicit bias slip. Because in his implicit bias, he believes in his world that when he's only around black people and no white people are there, that he's now in a jungle of sorts, that he's around animals, that the individuals who are human beings who happen to have black skin, without the presence of white skin, he's in a dangerous situation, that he's literally around wild animals. You see how implicit that is? Now he corrected it because he's at least smart enough to realize how that's going to land, because he was on a broadcast platform. When he said it, even one of the individuals seemed to be immediately or have an immediate response to it, just nonverbal. So I think he got it, right? It's not to say he didn't get it. It is to say that he was, in fact, implicitly racist. And it came from a very genuine and authentic place inside of him. That has to be checked, brother. This is my point to you. I get the popularity of Joe Rogan. There are many people that rock with him. There are some people that rock with him that don't rock with him today. But I want to expose a greater truth in this situation. Now, here's the greater truth. The insensitivity connected to individuals that we honor. Joe Rogan did hurt some black folks that like him, that actually follow him, that at one point had respect for him. And he compared black people to being apes. I guarantee you, if Joe Biden would have said something like that, if Hillary Clinton would have said something like that. And hell, let's be frank, the Clintons have said something like that. And they were blasted by me and other people when they referred to black folk as criminals, etc. So they have said things like this. And they were blasted by those, not only in black advocacy organizations, but also by those on the right. So it seems to me that those on the conservative right, they're clearly able to call out the racism exhibited by Democrats. And yes, some Democrats are racist. They're easily able to see the racism inside of some Democrats because they'll quickly throw up, well, Joe Biden said this 20 years ago, so-and-so said this. But then when it comes to people inside of their own political party, they become apologists to their racism. Have you not seen that dynamic, brother?
Well, yes. One, I would say yes. Let me just add though, maybe it's not implicit racism. Maybe Joe Rogan's just a comedian being edgy. And he's on the air all the time, and occasionally he says dumb stuff.
Joe Rogan's a comedian?
That's what I'm saying. Joe Rogan's definitely a very good stand-up comedian if you watch his stand-up. But you're right, yeah, I think Republicans are slack about calling out racism. I think they probably should be quicker to call it out. And I think one of the reasons is just straight up politics. Republicans don't have a lot of, there's not a lot of black Republicans percentage-wise. So Republicans are slower to call that kind of thing out. They're slower to police that kind of language.
Well, that means they're cowards.
Well, I think that's something that's changing as far as the number of black.
But you do admit that if there's racism in front of you, you're afraid to call it out because of what racist people will say, then you are a coward, correct?
I would agree with that, but I don't think that's a reason. I think it's more of a, hey, there's just not a lot of black Republicans. And I think in the past, in particular, Republicans have not put as much emphasis as they should on recruiting black Americans, bringing more black Americans into the party, paying attention to that language.
Well, they got too many racist people in the party.
You know what? There's racist people everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, we just admitted it.
Most of them in the Republican Party.
I don't agree with that. I think you can probably find just as many Democrats.
If you take an average KKK member, I guarantee you, roughly 100% of the current KKK, what political party do you think they subscribe to?
One, that's probably like 7,000 people. Two, I don't know.
Do you think that 100%? Like I really believe 100% of the KKK they identify with Trump politics? You don't think so?
I think a good number of them identify with Trump politics, or at least have.
At least have. So you think there are members of the KKK who voted for Kamala Harris to be vice president?
I guarantee you there were some. Absolutely, absolutely. Didn't David Duke endorse Kamala, or was it Biden he endorsed?
Oh man! All right, let me ask you about this one.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about this one because we have limited time. We got another show coming up.
Sure. Yes.
All right. There was another conversation that was problematic to me that Joe Rogan had, where he basically called light complected black men not black. So by his linear logic, I'm not black, okay? And he said it's kind of weird to call, people that are his complexion or that are light. He said it's weird to call them black, and they're not black. And his co-host echoed that same sentiment. He co-signed on it. Do you think I'm black? I think I'm black. All right, I'm black.
I'll take your word for it.
All right, take my word for it. Now, Joe Rogan said something ridiculous like that. Understand the context, brother. You got Whoopi Goldberg, who literally doesn't have a job, at least for 2 weeks, maybe longer, because she said in ignorance that Jewish people or the Jews are not a race. She said that. She gets suspended. She's going through this possible cancellation. It was an insensitive and ignorant statement. Joe Rogan says it. He's a white male, obviously, even considers himself to be a white male. Said it directly in his latest apology while denying me as a black male, saying I'm not a black male, but he's a white male. He says this racially ignorant statement, and he gets an offer of $100 million to go to another platform. Explain this to me.
Well, I thought it was a weird riff. I believe he was talking to Jordan Peterson, and they had some kind of weird riff there.
It was racist, brother. The whole damn conversation was racist.
I thought it was weird. I didn't think that was racist.
So that's the new word for racist, weird?
I don't tell you that. I didn't think it was racist at all. I thought it was a strange conversation about what color people were based on how.
Wait a minute. So Joe Rogan gets to be a white man, as he said very clearly that he is a white man. That word is not for him to use, et cetera, but he clearly calls himself a white man. So him saying, I'm a white man, but I get to define what a black man is as a white man. You don't find that at its core racist?
I don't, man. It's 2022. If Rachel Dolezal can be black and Sean King can be black, if Joe Rogan can be white, I mean, if you wanted to say you were white, I wouldn't contradict you.
Sean King. At least Sean King has a black parent. Sean King graduated from Morehouse College. Sean King has been fighting for black rights. And Sean King is a champion for much of the criminal justice reform you've seen in America.
Made a lot of money on the side on some of those hustles, though. He's made that's gone into his pocket too. But
let's be very clear. Let's be very clear about Joe Rogan and racism.
Yes.
Everything that a white person does, it seems like you're willing to say, yeah, that's weird. That's not racist. And I'm trying to get you to understand, because you're a smart guy. You are a smart guy. I don't agree with your politics, but you're a smart guy. Please understand, man, racism doesn't have to be what we call hyper-aggressive to be racist, because the end result is the same. And here's the end result. The end result is that these biases based on skin color will play itself out through a very organic process if it's not checked. And Joe Rogan, when he said basically that black people remind him of Planet of the Apes when there's no white person around, right? When he said that, that was his implicit bias slip. That means that he has something inside of his soul that he needs to get right. And as long as we keep protecting individuals like that, as long as we keep being apologists for them, they would never realize the greater connection of humanity outside of the racial conversation, because they are unwilling to check their implicit bias. And people like you continue to coddle them and to support them and protect them through it. Tough love is love too, brother. And sometimes folks who put things out in the public, they need to experience tough love. You don't agree?
Well, I do agree people need to get tough love. I think we're making a mistake, and I just disagree with you categorically on trying to take everything into this. All right, we got to look for implicit bias. We got to try to dip. How deep can we dip in here and decide something's racist? You know, I think we've got to look at intent, and I think we have got to look at what people are trying to do and what they actually think.
It was definitely offensive.
It was offensive.
And many others. And it was rooted in racism. Now, before we go, we got like 3 minutes before the next show. I want to bring up a term that many on the right continue to use about Joe Rogan, and it's called cancel culture. What are your thoughts about cancel culture? I think it's a great myth you all made up. People don't like certain people when they say crazy things about them. That's how it works.
Cancel culture is a complicated topic. We could do a whole show on it. Just to give you the short version is what's happening to Joe Rogan cancel culture. I would say no. I think Joe Rogan is a big guy. I think if Spotify fires Joe Rogan will be just fine. He will probably make more money somewhere else. I worry more about cancel culture from some guy who, let's say, made a dumb tweet 5 years ago and he gets fired from his job as a manager somewhere because he said something dumb, or someone who said something they weren't really thinking. They make a little joke, and next thing you know, they weren't trying to be a bad guy. It was insensitive. It was dumb, and they end up getting crushed by it. So I don't worry about cancel culture so much in reference to someone like Joe Rogan. I think it's more in reference to ordinary people maybe making thoughtless or dumb statements and having their lives wrecked.
You and I, and I definitely want you to come back and debate that in a more full opportunity for debate. Do you consider black people apes or monkeys?
No.
Why?
They're not apes or monkeys.
But why don't you consider them apes or monkeys?
Why would I?
Because you're not racist, right?
Well, I just don't, because they're not. You're not an ape. You're not a monkey if you're black. Nah, your white people aren't apes or monkeys. No, I'm not.
All right, that's why you don't.
Your audience would disagree, but I'm gonna say no.
Okay, all right. It's been fun, man. Next time we'll have more time. We got to go to the next show, but thank you, brother.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. All right, deep dive with Jordan Eulis next. Remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.